Only the children who ever honored me, Evelyn Bliss said, raising her crystal glass beneath the gold retirement banner, are my real family. For one breath the ballroom stayed still. Then the applause came. Maria Bliss sat near the back of the room in her navy dress, hands folded tightly in her lap, while hospital executives, relatives, donors, and former staff clapped for the woman who had just erased her. Evelyn turned her smile toward Maria. "You don't belong here." The words landed harder than a slap. Maria heard Daniel chuckle from the family table. Claire lowered her eyes. Someone behind Maria whispered, "She always did cause trouble." Maria pushed her chair back, legs trembling but steady enough to stand. She had spent too many years swallowing things to keep peace in rooms that never protected her. But before she could speak, Liam stood beside her. Evelyn's smile sharpened. "Oh, wonderful," she said into the microphone. "Mr. Janitor has something to say too." A few people laughed. Liam didn't. He simply buttoned his old black jacket, looked across the ballroom, and gave the banquet manager one small nod. The manager straightened immediately, and 3 hospital board members went pale. Maria noticed it before anyone else did. Her husband, the man her mother had mocked all evening for his worn shoes and quiet manners, had somehow changed the temperature of the room without saying a word. Evelyn stood at the front beneath a banner that read, 40 years of service, surrounded by white roses, polished silverware, and people who had spent the evening praising her legacy. She had thanked Daniel first for being successful, then Claire for being loyal. She praised their spouses for bringing honor to the Bliss name. Maria had waited for her name. Not for applause, not for praise, just one honest sentence. Because she remembered the hospital visits Evelyn never mentioned, the overdue bills paid from Maria's savings, the phone calls answered at midnight, the family disasters cleaned up quietly so Evelyn's reputation stayed untouched. Instead, her mother had lifted a glass and turned sacrifice into shame. Maria rose fully now, her chair scraping loud enough to cut through the murmurs. Liam stepped into the aisle beside her. Evelyn tilted her head. "Sit down before you embarrass yourself further." Liam looked toward the manager again. This time the man moved toward the microphone, and Maria realized the most powerful people in the room weren't watching Evelyn anymore. They were watching Liam. Why were they terrified of the man her mother thought was beneath her? An hour before Evelyn raised that glass, Maria had been standing in the women's restroom, gripping the edge of the marble sink while her mother adjusted her pearls in the mirror. "You're seated at table 9, Evelyn said. Maria looked up. Table 9 is near the doors. It's still inside the room. Daniel and Claire are at your table. Evelyn's eyes flicked toward her through the mirror. Daniel has donors to speak with. Claire knows how to behave at formal events. Maria swallowed, and I do. Evelyn turned, smiling the kind of smile she only used when no one else was watching. You may attend because people would ask questions if you weren't here, but do not mention money, do not mention my surgery, and do not bring up old family ugliness. Maria's fingers tightened around her clutch. Money. That was the word Evelyn always dropped like a locked door between them. 2 years earlier, Evelyn had called Maria crying, saying there was a temporary accounting issue with the retirement foundation. She said it was nothing criminal, nothing serious, just timing. Donations had been delayed. A review was coming. Her whole career could be stained over a misunderstanding. So Maria had emptied her savings. And later, at Thanksgiving, Evelyn had toasted Daniel for saving this family from scandal. Maria had said nothing. Then came the documents. Just sign as a witness, Evelyn had told her. When Maria asked for copies, Evelyn's voice had gone cold. After everything I've done for you, you still question me. Now in the restroom, Evelyn reached forward and straightened Maria's necklace like Maria was still 12 years old. Tonight is my legacy, she said. Do not confuse your sacrifice with importance. Maria walked back to the ballroom with the words sitting in her throat like glass. Liam noticed immediately. At table 9 he leaned close. She threatened you again. No, Maria. She looked down at his hands, rough around the knuckles, folded beside the water glass. Her mother loved pointing to those hands as proof he was beneath them. She said I should stay invisible, Maria whispered. Liam's face changed. Not anger, not surprise. Decision. Then tonight, he said, she chose the room. Maria frowned. What does that mean? Before he could answer, Evelyn tapped her glass at the front of the ballroom. The conversations faded. As everyone turned toward the stage, Liam reached inside his jacket, pulled out a sealed envelope and slid it beneath his dinner plate. The applause after Evelyn's toast did not feel like celebration anymore. It felt like a verdict. Maria stood beside her chair, but before she could open her mouth, Daniel leaned back from the family table and called across the ballroom, Maria, sit down. Don't ruin Mom's night like you ruin everything else. A few guests turned toward him, then toward Maria, waiting to see if she would obey. Clea pressed her napkin to her lips. This is supposed to be about service, she said, loud enough for the closest tables to hear. You should apologize. Evelyn stayed at the microphone, letting them speak first. Then she gave the room a tired, wounded smile. You see, she said, this is what I've lived with, resentment, drama, poor choices. Her eyes dropped to Liam's worn shoes. And then she wonders why the family has standards. A hospital trustee near the front gave a polite laugh. That tiny laugh opened the door for others. Maria's face went hot, but Liam stepped past her into the aisle. He did not shout, he did not point. He simply looked at the banquet manager and said, "Bring me the microphone, please." Evelyn's expression snapped. "Absolutely not," she said. "Staff do not hand microphones to other staff." The banquet manager stopped beside Liam and held out the microphone with both hands. Then he turned to Evelyn. "Mr. Liam owns this venue." The room went silent so fast Maria could hear silverware settling on plates. Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. Clea stared at Liam's jacket, as if the fabric had changed in front of her. Evelyn let out a short laugh. "That is ridiculous." Liam took the microphone. "It's not." He looked around the room, calm enough to make everyone else seem smaller. "Years ago, I worked maintenance after my father's business failed. I never hid that. I rebuilt what we lost under a private ownership group. This hotel, this ballroom, and the company that manages this event are part of that group." Whispers moved from table to table. Maria stood frozen, one hand still touching the back of her chair. Liam turned slightly toward her. "I didn't correct your mother because you asked me not to escalate things." Evelyn's face flushed. "So this is a performance. You two plan to humiliate me at my retirement banquet." "No," Liam said. "This is not about how you treated me." He reached for the sealed envelope on the table and opened it. Evelyn's confidence faltered. Liam looked directly at her. "It's about what you did to Maria." At that moment, the ballroom doors opened. Two members of the hospital ethics committee stepped inside, followed by a woman in a grey suit carrying a folder thick with audited financial records. The woman walked straight toward the front and said, "Mrs. Bliss, we need to discuss the foundation account you asked your daughter to cover." Evelyn's face tightened, but only for a second. Then she laughed softly into the microphone. "I'm sorry," she said, turning toward the guests, "but this is absurd. My daughter has always misunderstood adult responsibilities." Maria felt every eye swing back to her. Evelyn pointed a polished finger in her direction. Any money Maria gave was a voluntary gift, a daughter helping her mother. Apparently, even that must now be twisted into an attack. Maria's throat worked once. Then she stepped forward. "You told me if I didn't pay it quietly," Maria said, "you would be accused of misconduct." The room shifted. Not loudly, not all at once. But chairs creaked, faces changed. The applause from minutes earlier felt far away. The auditor opened her folder. "We can confirm several foundation payments were routed through personal expenses and replaced shortly before annual review." Daniel shot to his feet. "That's not theft, that's accounting language. Mom would never steal." Liam turned his head toward him. "Do you want the records read aloud with your name included?" Daniel went still. For the first time that night, Maria saw fear on her brother's face. Clea whispered, "Daniel." No one answered her. Maria looked from Daniel to Claire, and the pieces began locking into place. Daniel's sudden business success, Claire's mortgage that had somehow survived when her husband lost his job, Evelyn's speeches about loyalty, her warnings about silence. They had not only been favored, they had benefited. Evelyn grabbed the microphone tighter. My daughter is unstable, bitter, manipulated by a man who pretended to be humble so he could ambush me. Liam looked toward the AV technician near the wall. Play the file submitted to the ethics committee. Evelyn's smile vanished. A small click sounded through the speakers. Then Evelyn's own voice filled the ballroom. Pay it quietly, Maria, or I'll tell everyone you nearly destroyed my career. Maria stopped breathing. She remembered that call, the kitchen light, her shaking hands, Liam standing in the doorway saying nothing because she had begged him not to get involved. The guests heard enough. A few people turned away from Evelyn. One board member removed the retirement plaque from the display table. Evelyn lunged toward the AV station. Turn that off. A board member stepped into her path. Liam did not move from the aisle. His voice cut through the room. Now play the part where she explains why Maria was never supposed to inherit anything. The recording continued before Evelyn could reach the AV table. Her voice filled the ballroom again, sharper now, stripped of the warm public tone she used with donors. Maria will do it. She always does. Daniel and Claire have real lives to protect. Maria needs approval badly enough to take responsibility if this becomes a problem. A sound moved through the room, not quite a gasp, not quite a whisper. Maria stood with one hand pressed to the back of her chair. Liam looked at the auditor. Show the documents. The woman in the grey suit stepped forward and held up copies of the forms Maria had signed years ago. These witness documents were attached to transactions later flagged during review, she said. Mrs. Bliss kept the copies from her daughter. Based on the audit, Maria Bliss's personal funds were used to replace money that had already been diverted. Evelyn's lips parted, but nothing came out. The full shape of it was finally visible. Evelyn had taken foundation money and used it for family favors, then pressured Maria into covering the hole. If the audit discovered the missing funds, Maria's signature would have made her look involved. Maria had not been careless. She had been used. Liam turned to the room. After Maria told me about the savings she lost, I hired an independent forensic accountant. My company had pledged a major donation to the foundation through this venue group. That gave us the right to request ethical clearance before the funds were released. He paused, then looked at Evelyn. The retirement gift you expected tonight was never a tribute to you. It was for patient assistance, and it was conditional. The hospital board chair stepped forward, face stiff. Mrs. Bliss, he said, your honorary retirement title is suspended pending formal investigation. The plaque will not be presented tonight. The foundation account will be frozen and transferred to independent oversight. Evelyn looked toward the family table. Daniel, she said. Daniel pushed his chair back, but not toward her, away from her. The auditor turned to him. Mr. Bliss, will need you available for questions regarding payments connected to your company. Daniel's face drained. Claire began to cry quietly. Her husband leaned toward her and asked, was our mortgage part of this? Claire covered her mouth and could not answer. Evelyn turned on Maria then, panic breaking through her make-up-perfect expression. You destroyed me. Maria stepped into the aisle. No, she said, I stopped protecting what you were already doing. The silence after that felt different. No one laughed. No one whispered that Maria was difficult. Liam came to her side and placed a folder in her hands. Copies of everything she kept from you, he said. Your payments will be pursued as restitution, not as a family disagreement, as financial coercion. Maria looked down at the papers, then at the corsage pinned to her dress, the one Evelyn had forced on her at the entrance so the photographs would look proper. Maria unpinned it slowly. She walked to the empty family table and placed it beside Evelyn's untouched champagne glass. Then she walked out with Liam. No rushing, no hiding, no apology. Behind them, Evelyn remained under the retirement banner, while the board chair spoke quietly with the ethics committee. Guests who had applauded her minutes earlier avoided her eyes. Former staff clustered near the walls, murmuring about favors, reimbursements, and bills that suddenly made sense. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn lost donor support and was removed from the foundation's public materials. Daniel's business contracts were examined. Claire's relationship with Evelyn fractured under the weight of what she had accepted and what she had ignored. Maria recovered part of her money through the investigation. She and Liam used a portion of it to create a small patient transportation grant, separate from Evelyn's name, separate from Evelyn's legacy. Months later, Maria sat at the front table of that grant's first ceremony. When the host introduced her, no one called her Evelyn Bliss's daughter. They called her Maria Bliss, the woman who made sure the truth finally had witnesses. And for the first time in her life, Maria did not need her mother's approval to belong.